You're watching The Buzz, where we hit your faves with five rapid fire questions. And today I am buzzing with excitement to chat about Fringe Cinema with Nathan Senn, the director of the Sydney Underground Film Festival, which will take place from September 11th through to the 14th. Welcome to the show, Nathan. How are you?
Yeah, good mate. Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. So I thought we'd start by getting to know a little bit about who Nathan is and what are your film tastes and preferences by asking, what are your top three films of all time?
I love that question, but I also hate that question. Choosing favourites, like choosing children, it's such a hard one. But I do have a top three. I love Strozek by Werner Herzog. It's a bit of an old classic. Love many films by Alejandro Jodorowsky, but particularly The Holy Mountain. So that's one I'd probably throw up there. And rounding out the top three, probably Ingmar Bergman's Persona. So, yeah, I mean, my taste is a little bit art house, a little bit old school, but yeah, try and keep it eclectic, keep it interesting.
Yep. Well, I guess that makes sense as the director of the Underground Film Festival, that is the types of cinema that you like.
Absolutely.
You mentioned sort of three directors there. Who are your favourite directors? Is it those three or is there others as well?
I'd say that they would be up there. I mean, they've all got really strong bodies of work. Which other filmmakers do I love? I really love a lot of old school European filmmakers. So like Robert Bresson, Andrei Tarkovsky, maybe some newer filmmakers like Michael Haneke, Lars von Trier, guys like that. That kind of really sort of formalistic art house, but also a little bit, experimental, a little bit subversive kind of filmmakers that try and do something a bit different, a little bit provocative, which is kind of what we're all about at SUFF. So that's the kind of thing that I'm into personally, yeah.
Brilliant. And then the Sydney Underground Film Festival is, like you said, all about celebrating sort of bold, boundary-pushing, independent cinema. What was the film that sort of introduced you to this space? Because it's not like you just chuck on Netflix and there's one of these movies popping up right in front of you.
No, absolutely. Well, I have a long sort of history of loving film and cinema. I mean, it really goes back to probably childhood. Like I have really fond memories of going to the video store with my family every weekend, like getting a couple of overnighters and a bunch of weeklies on holidays, and like a lot of 90s kids probably sitting around the TV with family and watching films. And luckily my family had a little bit of a interesting taste, willing to take some risks and try some adventurous things. So definitely that was a formative experience. And then in high school, studied media, and then went on to study film quite comprehensively throughout uni. So that was, you sort of go from watching sort of more mainstream family oriented stuff, but then when you actually study something with a little bit of depth, especially like at tertiary level, they introduce you to a lot more deep dive, deeper cuts, like proper cinema, which is great. And then obviously you start to explore the art houses and start going to film festivals yourself and become exposed to films that are just a bit more wild and unwieldy. Probably one I've already mentioned, but I'd say Bergman's Persona was really the first film that I remember watching probably at about 18 or 19 as I started studying cinema, that really opened me up to film being more than just sort of popcorn entertainment, like proper art. Every scene is a piece that you'd hang on the wall and really trying to deal with, humanistic, deeper sort of themes and motifs. And yeah, I think things for you to sort of walk away and consider. And I remember being really sort of moved by that one in particular. So I think that set me on the path to being interested in independent art cinema, and it's got me to where I am today. So
very nice. And are you sort of across all genres, or do you have like a set genre that you like to stick to as well?
No, I mean, I've worked across a number of different festivals in my career as a programmer and a festival director. So I've done a lot of work in documentary. Obviously, SUFF is sort of cult, underground, experimental, everything weird and wonderful. We also do a lot of genre film too. So there's obviously a lot of like horror, sci-fi, western, that kind of thing that we program. I tend to try and keep it eclectic, and I'll watch anything, good, bad, or indifferent. I think all films are sort of miracles. It's very difficult to actually make a feature film, and it's such a collaborative, creative process. And so even the ones that don't come out quite right have something in them that you can take away from them. So yeah, I tend to be into both high and low, and tend to not discriminate when it comes to genres. I love a bit of everything.
Brilliant. And then sort of, so obviously, like we mentioned, these aren't your typical movies that you're going to see on Netflix, Amazon, Stan, and things like that. Outside of the Sydney Underground Film Festival, where is the best place for people to find these types of films?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And part of what we take pride in is the fact that we are a bit of a discovery festival, and that we're playing films that you might not be able to see elsewhere. They're quite hard to come by. They can be quite obscure, which doesn't necessarily mean they're hard to watch, just that they don't necessarily have the coverage or the platforms that they really deserve. So I definitely encourage audiences to try and come to SUFF, because it could be one of the only chances that you get to see some of these films, particularly up on screen in 16, 32 millimeter prints, or recovered VHS, or whatever the format may be. So really, film festivals like not just our own, but other film festivals that are around that do really good things. Fantastic Film Festival Australia is another one that's in Sydney that does some great work. South by Southwest is coming up in October, and they play some really good genre films as well. I think getting to the cinema and supporting in-person screenings is really important. Outside of that, I mean, a lot of these films do have home entertainment releases, sometimes a little bit more obscure. Like, you can't just get them at a JB Hi-Fi or a DVD store, but there are sites online that do re-releases of some of these great old cult classics. So definitely trying to find DVDs or Blu-rays, copies like that online. It's definitely possible as well, and getting them ordered from overseas.
So as we look ahead to the Sydney Underground Film Festival on September 11 to 14th, what are your top recommendations from this year's festival lineup?
It's a really great lineup this year. I'm so proud of the films that we've been able to pull together. I really think that there's something in there for everyone. I mean, opening night is great. We're playing Queens of the Dead, which is by George Romero's daughter, Tina Romero. It's an homage to old school satirical zombie cinema. So people who love horror, people who love political satire, love old George A. Romero films, definitely come along to that. Closing night's another big one. It's a debut filmmaker by the name of Annapurna Sriram. It's called Fuck Toys. If you love sort of John Waters, Hodorowski, who I mentioned before, it's very similar to a film called The Love Witch, which was a bit of a sleeper hit in 2016. If you love that film, cinema that's just beautiful and bold and gorgeous, come out and see that. We've got some great documentaries that we're playing. Coexistence My Ass, which is a really thoughtful and well-considered film about the Israel-Palestine conflict. Super timely. Get along to that. We've got documentaries about bands like the Butthole Surfers, Cheech and Chong, who are two great underground film icons. Come out and celebrate them. A bunch of great Australian films. Stellark, which is about a performance artist named Stellark who does work at the intersection of the human body and technology. It's a great Australian documentary that we're screening. Skeleton Girls by a filmmaker named Richard Eames out of Perth. It's a great example of low-budget, independent, resourceful filmmaking. Snatches is another one for sort of zombie horror fans, which is, again, another local production. So, yeah, bunch of great films, narratives, features, documentaries, short films. There'll be workshops, Q&As. Just come along. There's something for everyone, I think.
Brilliant. And it's all at the Dendy Cinema in Newtown, correct?
Yep, that's correct. Dendy in Newtown.
Perfect. Alrighty. Thank you, Nathan, for joining me in the Hive. Where is the best place for people to join your creative colony and get tickets to the festival?
Yeah, so the best place is our website, which is www.suff.com.au. You can also go directly to the Dendy's website by searching Dendy Newtown in Google, or, if you're not so prepared, come along during the festival on the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and you can get tickets on the door if they're still available.
Thank you so much for taking the time. And if you want to see more of your faves spill the goods, hit follow and catch me on the next drop of the Hive.